Joining us now for her first television interview since the election of the new pope is House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. It's so good to see you. You are, I think most people know this, a lifelong Catholic. So I have to know what went through your mind when the announcement came that this was the first ever American-born pope.
Well, it was pretty exciting. The first excitement was there's white smoke. I was in the airport in Washington, and I took it upon myself to announce it to everybody else because we heard that right away. Now, the thing is, what happened was when his name was announced, Leo the 14th, that was something. American Pope, following in the footsteps of Francis, named for Leo the 13th. Pope Leo XIII cared about the poor. He wrote an encyclical, Rerum Novarum, of new things. He cared about workers' rights, about workers' wages and working conditions, and the ability to join unions. This was 125 years ago or more. And he also cared about the poor, those in need. So when this Pope took this name, first the just almost shock of it being an American, but then secondly, the joy of it and shock of him choosing Leo the 14th as his name, something quite remarkable. It's very exciting. I'm glad you quoted, you heard from our Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal McElroy. He spoke so perfectly about what the fit is here.
So the new pope is, of course, not just the Corriere della Sera, but he's on the front pages of newspapers here all across our country. And I wonder, Madam Speaker, at a time when we are so politically divided, what does it mean to have just a few moments when we were all, like, collectively holding our breaths and then watching something together in joy and hopefulness?
It was quite remarkable. And what was interesting is the timing. They had the first day, which is the formality. They have one vote that day. And then the next day, they take the series of votes, and it showed the unity of the conclave, that they would choose someone so decisively, so early. And that was what was so important, too, that when Pope Leo XIV came forth, he came forth with the full support of the conclave right from the start, in the spirit of Francis, in his own right, as named by Leo XIV. And I know we call him an American Pope, but he's global. He has been the cardinal in Peru. He has worked in the Vatican for a long time, and of course, he is an American, so we're very proud of him. We're hearing from everybody who knew him. Even Marty Russo called me and said he was 19 years old when I first ran for Congress. He must have voted for me because he lived in my district. So that's the kind of stories we're hearing now. Everybody is connecting with Pope Leo XIV.
We do know, because of course, immediately people went and checked his voting record, and he has voted a lot in Illinois, actually. I also want to ask you about some of the things that he'll be facing and decisions about things that he'll say and things that he'll do on behalf of the church. His first words when he stepped out onto the loggia were, "Peace be with you all." And we know that the wars in Ukraine and Gaza were key issues for Pope Francis. In 2023, Pope Leo accused Russia of crimes against humanity for the suffering in Ukraine. So as we wait to see Pope Leo's approach now, what do you say to critics who say a pope is a religious figure who should not be wading into issues of war and peace?
Well, a pope should always be talking about peace. That is a value, and a vision of a pope should be of a world at peace, guided by those values. Especially when we're talking about killing children and families and crimes against humanity by a country. I think any pope would want to be judged as to whether he spoke out clearly about peace in a way that is constructive. It is constructive. But, just from one day, not even 24 hours, of seeing this pope, it appears that he is going to have his own path. as was said earlier, he has his own path, and he has so much excitement and support with him from the conclave, from the people in the square, in the world, in America, that we welcome however he wants to go forward. But in the past, he has been, as has been mentioned, quite definite about what he believes. And he believes in helping people. Peace
to that point, Madam Speaker, his social media was busy prior to becoming Pope and is getting attention. It includes a post he shared just last month from a Catholic commentator who called out Trump and the president of El Salvador for laughing about the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And then in February, he also reposted an article from the National Catholic Reporter that was titled, "J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others." He was responding to the VP's assertion that care for the rest of the world came in last after family, neighbor, community, and fellow citizens. This new pope is said to be acutely aware of conditions forcing migration, of the vulnerabilities of migrants. Do you think that at this moment, when so many people are looking to him, he could be impactful as a moral and ethical voice on that issue that we're dealing with when so many people are being mass deported or fear it?
Well, I certainly hope so. And from his comments previous to being elected, the Pope, he has made clear what his values and his view of all of that is. And it is important, it is really important for us to listen to the words, both of our elected officials when they say what they say about ranking people and their importance, and our religious leaders. Now, let me just tell you one thing more about His Holiness. He is, he's from the Augustine order, which he headed, and all the rest. So St. Augustine is special to him. St. Augustine was also very special to Pope Benedict. That was his favorite saint, St. Augustine. And when Pope, now this is a Pope writing an encyclical. Pope Benedict wrote his first encyclical. It was called God is Love. And in the encyclical, he quotes St. Augustine. He says, St. Augustine said that any government that is not organized to help the people is just a bunch of thieves. That's what St. Augustine said, and that's how he was quoted by Benedict. So popes have can be expected to express their views about justice and peace and ministering to the needs of those in need. Leo XIII did it. Leo XIV will do it. But the Pope, and certainly beautiful Francis, named for our city of St. Francis, he certainly did that as well. So I think we're very blessed in the traditions that this Pope is calling upon, and how wonderful we all are that he blessed us right with his very first words.
Let me ask you about what might be a new tradition. You notably invited Pope Francis to address Congress back in 2015, along with then House Speaker John Boehner. It was quite the event. Have you had any conversations about potentially inviting the new Pope Leo, the first American? Would you lead an effort to invite him to Washington?
Well, I think it would be very exciting, but of course this isn't even a day old, and it was pretty, I can just say this, it was pretty thrilling when Pope Francis addressed the Congress of the United States. He talked about saving God's creation, this planet. He talked about ministering to the needs of the poor. Now, I don't know if people think that's political, but it certainly was uplifting and thrilling. And while I was not speaker, I was part of the 4 people who invited him, and therefore, because I was leader, and the 4 of us had the opportunity to listen to him privately talk about some things which he would later address to the full Congress. It uplifted Congress. It really added so much value to who we are that we would listen and hear. And not everybody agreed, but that's what Congress is about. But His Holiness was magnificent. So again, not to give any, our speaker and the leadership will have to make that decision, and we'll see what happens with that. But again, I don't think anybody would. And then when Pope Benedict came, he didn't address Congress, but he addressed the people of Washington in the stadium. So there's been a lot of communication in Washington, D.C. With Pope Benedict and most recently Benedict and Francis. It was glorious. It took us to heaven. I hope we can go there again.
Well, I think I can say without fear of contradiction that you may not be Speaker, you may be Speaker Emerita, but there are a few people whose ear you have and who listen to you. So feel free to call us and let us know when you decide to start that push. Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi,
Well,
thank you so much. Yeah,
well, thank you, and thank you for the attention to us. I just want to say, now we have to find out when he will be sworn in. It sounds like, from what your reporter said, it'd be next Sunday.
Next Sunday, that's right. Would you go?
And then, well, let's find out when it is and who.
Next Sunday, the inaugural Mass.
I'd love to go. Yes, I want to be invited, if that's the question, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's great to have you on the program.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.